All right, so I'm just gonna film this live. Guys, anybody want to sit and watch me paint? Uh, this is what I'm going to be doing. So I have my limited palette mixed and out. I mixed the orange using those two. So lemon yellow and quinacridone rose. And this is my very limited palette. I add burnt sienna or burnt umber, one of the two, depending on what I'm doing. So in this painting, now I've done the second lay-in of color, basically. And now I'm coming back in to do a second pass and adjusting and fixing some things that need to be fixed. So I don't know, let's see what we can do in here and how we can get it to work better. I'm sorry I don't have on hand right now the photo. I wish I did. I don't know how to do that yet, to add it in. But I do have a reference photo here on my computer, my little laptop. I'll pull it up and see how I'm going to do that. Okay. And I guess this is still going just fine. Okay. Let me pull that up again. All right. Just getting the photo reference up. And maybe what I can do is turn it enough. My setup here is a bit off, but I thought maybe I could bring it forward enough so that maybe you could, I guess still you can't see it very well. That is what I'm working from. This is a scene that's up in the mountain area, just off of the island here in Chalkidiki in Greece. And I quite like this little patch of trees, and, you know, have decided to paint it for my classes, my online classes that I do, and use it as a demo for putting together a landscape. So it's touch dry, the first thing that I'm going to go is start do another layer on the sky. And I'm going to get rid of all of this here, pretty much. It's too much, takes away. I may get rid of the entire thing and not even paint those trees. They are a group of kind of wispy trees, long branches. I suppose maybe you can't see it very clearly. And they're also over on this side, but I think it just takes up too much and is too distracting. So let's start with a sky color and start working with getting the sky in better shape. In the photo reference, there were kind of hazy, wispy clouds, not the cumulus kind, just, kind of passing through the sky, hazy. And might want to do that. So you don't ever really want to use like just blue and white. When you're mixing your colors, you always want to gray it down a little bit. And so I'm going to take a little bit of this orange. You can see how little, right? And mix that in, and it'll just take it down a notch. Because orange and blue are opposite on the color wheel, so they are complementary colors. And when you mix complementary colors together, you will get a gray. So if you mix just a little bit of the complement, it will tone down the blue or any color that you're using. I've got my brushes sitting, let me show you, beautifully in a jar of linseed oil, and I highly suggest you do that if you're not the type of painter that washes brushes all the time. I don't wash my brushes every single day. When I'm working on a specific painting, I put them in this jar of linseed oil, then I wipe off the oil, and I'll dip it in my turpentine, just get all the extra stuff off, all the extra paint. If there's a little bit of paint in the brush, it's not going to be harmful, and it is workable. So I'm going to start with that. And I use a large brush so that I'm always reminded to lay down my brushwork. In this layer, I'm going to be a little bit more conscious of the brush strokes that I'm making. I don't want to be all over the place because the sky is a dome and it's very clear. And so I want to be emulating that in my painting. When I move up towards the top of the dome of the sky, it is bluer and darker. That could work. I'm brushing with the side of the brush. Little strokes downward to get that sense of the dome. So because thinking about a dome in the sky, there are some little tricks that we can apply. And one of those tricks is the direction of the sun. So we have the sun coming in this way. Our light is coming in this way. If you go outside and look at the sky, you will see that where the sun is, the blue of the sky is much lighter than on the far side. So we have the sun over here. This side of the sky can be just slightly darker. So you're creating a dome from the horizon up to where you're standing, to the dome of the sky, but also from side to side, there is a play and a subtle shift of color. Barely noticeable, just barely. To anyone just passing by and looking at the painting, they probably wouldn't notice it. And that is what you want. You want to guide the viewer through various parts of your painting. They don't need to notice every single little thing that you're doing. Can get some sky holes. Now let's talk a little bit about sky holes. When you are painting sky holes in the trees, you are not going to use the same value as right next to the open sky where the tree branches are. You will go darker, just a tad darker, because inside the tree, if you put a light color, let me do that. It stands out too much. And so just tone it down. Now, because when you're painting, trees, I mean, you don't want to paint these big round trees. You need to add variation, break them up a little bit. Even if you have a beautiful round tree that you're looking at while you're painting, you definitely do not paint it that way. So this is the space where you can just kind of work with that. I'm going to lower this background hill. Even more, and kind of push it really far into the background. Okay. All right. Now in the sky area, there's usually some space somewhere in the middle here that can be just blue greenish. Not always, you guys. And in fact, in this one, it's not something that you can actually see in the photo, but you can use it to create interest and to help create the dome of the sky. If you squint down a little bit, you can see there's space here, and then the middle sky and the dome up here. And that's what I want to do. So I'm going to go back in. And just kind of move that down. So about your brush strokes in the sky area. There's a couple ways that you can lay in the sky. It really will come to what you love to do. But there is a sense of, depending on how you want to depict the sky. The clouds near the horizon are going to be more yellow. It is the only part of the landscape that gets, when you're using whites, if you're using white, the farther in the background the white goes, the warmer it becomes. So I was talking about something else and have lost it. Sorry about that. So the more I move up the white, this hazy kind of white, gets bluer and cooler up near the top of the dome of the sky. I'm trying to get the this movement. And the reason why I like this diagonal cloud formation in the sky, it is that way in the photo reference, but it also establishes this sense of diagonal. So let's look at that compositionally. Here I have in the foreground a diagonal coming this way. From the midground and background, it's basically a diagonal coming that way. Okay, so we have this shape of the sky, this shape of the land, of the midground, and then this shape of the foreground, all kind of on diagonals. And this is a diagonal coming this way, so I'm doing some diagonal clouds as well for greater harmony. And here in the middle, we have kind of a big shape, but it isn't a diagonal. It's not a round shape either, but it's not a diagonal, and it can be used for just, you know, if you go back to the abstract simple shapes, we have, let's say, a big round shape here, and these diagonal shapes coming in as the basic design of this painting. And so if I put in big puffy round clouds in the sky, it would take away from the dynamic roundness, this shape that is different, totally different than the diagonals happening in this composition. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the sky now, and I like this. I'm going to leave these branches here. There is an interesting element happening of it going off the top of the canvas and kind of bringing back down. So I'm going to work these branches and kind of have some kind of hook here to bring the eye back down, which will show up here. And yeah, there's some good compositional things that can happen. Okay, so going to clean my brush and move on. Again, it is important to use large brushes, larger than you think you need. So I'm going to lighten up. I think my background hills here are still too dark. Although, yeah, I think they're too dark. And I have two separate ones. So these are the far back on the horizon hills. And I'm going to warm up these ones by adding, I think I could mix. I'm going to try this. Getting a very dull bluish green, I think, for this area, but let's see how that reads. Maybe. What I really wanted to do is just lighten it a little bit. Adding that little bit of a bluish green still keeps it in the background, but also brings it forward enough to not have it be such a stark line. It just softens it up a little bit, and when you have high contrast in your background area, it draws the eye into those back hills, and we don't need that. I'm going to also work with this round tree, and there's a couple things I could do. I could just make a group of trees here as a stop, but I'm not sure. So let me just scrape some of this back. Okay. So this color here, because it is farther in the background from these mid-ground set of trees, this will be, will lose a lot of the yellows and oranges and will become more dull, depending how far back we want to put those trees. And I'm going to use my burnt sienna a little bit of the yellow, a little bit of the orange got in there as well. Now if I put this on there, it's just much too warm. It would bring that tree close up. So we said complementary colors. Burnt sienna is an orange, basically. And see how it just toned that down quite a bit in and is something that we could use. Okay, that's getting better. I don't need it to be very distinct. Add some of the shadow color in there. Maybe darken. And, that just works as a stop, right? I'm kind of pointing you towards the back of this center group of trees. And if you squint down at that tree, just the highlighted areas of that back tree is a different value, but otherwise it all just kind of melts in together. And that is the important thing. I can get little specks. Of the shadow. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Not going to do too much more. Again, adding a little bit of the blue, maybe. No, I don't like that. Too much going on. Okay. And just incorporating the various colors into other areas of the background for continuity, to help give a sense of depth and space. Okay, that's looking pretty good for me. So in this group here, I'm going to spend some time just establishing the various trees and bushes. Remember that we want to keep things in odd numbers. So right now, as I'm looking at it, there's this tree here, there's this one here, there's this one back here, and then there's this area here. So we've got 4 happening. And I think I would turn that into 5 somehow. So let's see what we can do with that. I'm going to take the sky color, which I don't need anymore for now, bring that over here as well. And I'm going to start working on establishing these colors. Now, always working with a limited palette. Everything that you do in the painting will have color harmony. And it is the reason why I always start out painters, even if you're, an intermediate painter, by using these various colors on this limited palette, because your paintings will just look better when you are able to understand your colors and how they work and how to mix. Then go ahead and add whatever you want, all the other colors you need. But until then, I highly suggest that you work with a limited palette. We are closer up. So the closer I get with the shadow areas, the warmer I want them to be. And a very simple way to do that is just mix burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue. And the more you come forward, the more of the burnt sienna you will use. So you're warming up the colors. It's not a hard, fast rule. But again, it's a great way to begin to establish your sense of depth, atmospheric perspective, and a very cohesive painting. So I don't really need to do a lot in the shadows here. I'm going to still use my big brush. And work some of these areas in. We did have a slight dome feel about the land there. A great way to mix greens is, again, using burnt sienna and blue and adding yellow. I got some of the orange again in there, and that's fine, because it will just gray down the greens, and I don't want a bright green there. I mean, anywhere here. You'll see towards the final layer, when we get into the final details, that I may add a few specks here and there of a bright green, and that will be enough to give the viewer the information to actually view the entire tree as being that green, even though you have not painted it that way. You always, have to take into consideration how we see things. And, our minds tend to simplify quite a bit. So you can see that this is a very, very dull green, and I'm wanting it for parts of this area. And always working to variegate the colors. If I add a little bit of this sky color, tones it down quite a bit, and I can work on the entranceway. And I'm not going to do anything big here. I'm going to keep it kind of simple. So this works quite well for me. If you add the sky color, you are sending it back behind this focal area of the trees. And again, I can add some similar colors to keep it harmonious and balanced. In my teachings, right, and how I teach, I really love the idea of a balanced imbalance, meaning that generally your composition will have a sense of balance. Like I'm putting this little color here, it's got some sky color in it, so it pushes it back. And I'll add a few specks over here. That will help create the balance. And it's such a subtle way to do it, but it works. However, there will be a sense of imbalance, such as this tree back here, this little group. I'm not going to put that over here. I don't want to create two sides the same. Everything has to be slightly off. So the angles need to be different. I can't have the same sizes from here to here to here. You know, there's got to be a breakup, like at the background, and then this area here, the foreground, you know, from this point to this point comes to here, and I have a little bit of the background, the far hills. And then, you know, the sky, if it's all balanced in the same shapes and sizes, it loses some of its vitality. And the reason I believe is because we as human beings are far from being balanced. We're not. Every day is different. We've got more of this, less of that. We're tugging at all sorts of parts of our lives in all sorts of ways constantly. And I think that when we have a painting that is slightly unbalanced, it's just more exciting to us because you know, on a very subtle level, I think we can relate to it. Okay, so enough of the philosophy. Let's see what we're going to do in here now. This little spot right here needs to be toned down. The value is much too high, and it is a it pulls your eye to it. But before I go into that, I'm going to start doing these trees up in here. So I'm going to wipe off the palette knife, get a cleaner. Some yellow down here. I really love this little tree here. And again, I'm not just going to use yellow and red to create the orange. It has to be grayed down. Some of it even towards the green. Very mellow colors. I'm going to use the same brush and let's see what we can do. I'm using the side of it. Kind of bringing a sense of coming down here. Squinting down quite a bit at the photo reference and at the painting to see how things are playing out. In the photo reference, the brightest part of the tree branches are right here. I'm not going to do that because I'm working with the rule of thirds on this painting. So, you know, it would be somewhere around here would be the spot for yeah, that looks good. I mean, that's right in this area here. Because if I put it here, even though it's so close to this area, it's really close to the center. You don't put big exciting things right in the center of your painting. Especially if you are a beginner. So now, okay, up here, I'm gonna add a little bit of the sky color for the top part of this little tree here. We'll get some specks of the leaves. And I'm going to move into this background tree, which already I have is quite dark, and it's see what's happening there. As I'm moving down farther, I kind of have a little bit more blue and create, you know, a dark. It's pretty dark in there. There's not much light coming in. And again, I'm being careful not to build up the shadows with thick layers of paint, keeping them relatively thin. So again, up in the top of that back tree area, the parts of the tree that are just want them to be a little bit more disappearing into the sky and rounding over towards the back. And to do that, a really easy way to do that is to add some of the sky color to the top part of that tree. Then we have this tree coming in, which I do not want it to be the same strength. So again, I'm going to add some of the sky color to this orangey, gray it down just slightly, right? Yeah, that's quite nice. And just keeping it there. Here's an example, right? Up in this area, in the photo reference, there's, you know, this is not flat, obviously, it's a bunch of leaves. So there is some shadow area, right? So if I put a harsh shadow like that, it draws the eye, right? Just takes it up there and ruins the effect. So it's keeping, you know, you want to have some shadow there, but you don't want it taking you out of the painting. Again, I add some of the sky color to tone it down. I'm liking it. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm still going to be working on this one quite a bit to establish it and get it, because right now it doesn't really look like very much at all. But it needs something else. It needs to be broken up, and I could break it up here in the center. But like I said, I do not want things directly in the center. So, you know, this area right here is, you know, kind of stay away from that. But I could put something right in here, a little baby tree. And I like that idea. So I'm going to take some of this orangey green and just spruce up some of the areas on this nice big round bush here. Okay, creating more of a balance. Getting everything kind of separated. And now, see, if we're going down on the rule of thirds, we've got this area here as a focal point. I could put something here that's a little bit more interesting. I'm just going to use red sienna to see, do I do like some kind of bushes? I'm going to kind of make it up. Or just putting in, I'm not sure. That right there may be enough for a counterbalance. So when you're fiddling around and creating your own compositions, we are always altering what we're painting. You never paint exactly what you see in a landscape or a seascape. You can fiddle around, play around, and create. There we go. So now we have a more dynamic center shape going on here, a more dynamic thing. We've got the focal area tree, the background one supporting it, this one, coming out, and I'm still going to work on this area right in here and create something that is a little bit more, just a little bit more, not too much. And then by adding this little patch of quinacridone with burnt sienna, right, and toning it down with a little bit of the sky color or the blue. I can't remember exactly how I did that, but basically it's got blue in it because I took here. So quinacridone, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and a little tad of the orange or yellow, and white, of course. And it works effectively. And I'm still using the same brush. So now, because the sun is coming this way, we've got some shadows to put in. Okay. I left some of this color on the brush, but you can see very little, just to tone it down. So we can see that there is, this tree here is the focal point. It has all the things needed. Okay. And I'm liking this so far. I think it's coming along just fine. I'm going to go over this again and kind of pull off this layer. So I added burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, this mix that I had up here. And I'm going to add a little bit of this, warm it up. And then I can take the same color, add some of this, the yellow. And here in the foreground, in this area, you can use a lot of, you can use more palette knife. I'm not going to do too much of that right now. I'm going to stick with just kind of dragging lightly, scumbling over the top, not everywhere. So I want to create a line coming in this way, which will lead to this focal point. And over here as well. But I'm going to use a little bit more of that dulled pink color. Go ahead and use your fingers, smudge around. Ooh, I just love it. And I'm going to warm it up quite a bit. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. This for this area right in here. And to begin to create like a sense of the weeds. take a little bit of the green, add that into this mix and see what happens. It's a dull, dull, dull green. Kind of pasty, I'm not sure. Add some of the red to it. It'll make it more brownish. Gray it down because green and red are opposite colors on the color wheel. But I just want to get some areas not very happy with that. I'm just going to stand back and take a look at it. I'm going to warm up this area. To perhaps kind of create this pathway in. And kind of work with that. I don't really want a specific, roadway in, but I want something. And in the reference photo, there is a greenish kind of patch coming in. And yeah, that might work. Doesn't need to be too much. Okay. That's looking all right. Still use the same brush. Oh, hey, you're gonna miss, huh? That's okay. That's okay, Judy. if you can catch up with me sometime during the week, if you have a moment, I understand if you're busy. I can talk, we can talk a little bit, have a coffee, and just kind of talk about what happened, what was going on. You let me know. Yeah, I kind of like this idea here going on. Variegating a little bit this, kind of creating different spatial elements. Oops, sorry for. Okay, let's think about it for this session. Next time we go around this painting in the final details, we'll define the branches. Well, maybe I'll do that now. Just kind of get a lay-in of we're not going to do straight up and down sticks. You want to move them around a little bit. Okay. These branches up here will be grade, not too little markers. to kind of bring it all together. And I just used a palette knife. There are some areas like this because it's right against, it's got a high value contrast. It pulls the eye down here, so I'm going to fix that. And again, with our big brush, I'm just going to take kind of tone that down. Right. You see how that just got rid of that area. Okay, so we're going to stop here after this second pass of the painting and get into the final layer next week. So it's looking pretty good for now. Smooth out these background hills so they're not so, no strong brush strokes or palette knife kind of thing. All right, you guys, thanks for being here. We'll see you very soon.